Okay, let's just continue on straight away. See video 3 or videos 1, 2, 2.5, and 3 if you haven't, if this is your first time viewing this reading of Ortega y Gasset's Man and People. Okay, so he says the second point to be noted is this. Remember, he's describing the structure of our world. He's using phenomenology to do this. This is a good example of phenomenological investigation, light, like I say, like a light version of it. So this says that the second point to be noted is this. At this moment, we find ourselves in this hall, or whatever room you're in this hall, which is a thing in whose interior we are. It is an interior for two reasons. One, because it surrounds or envelops us on all sides, and two, because its form is closed, that is, continuous. Now, the room's or the hall's surface is present to us without interruption, so that we see nothing else. It has neither holes nor openings, breaks, gaps, or fissures that allow us to see other things that are not itself, or the objects, or are other than the objects inside it, such as the chairs, walls, the lights, and so on. But let us imagine that when we leave this building here, when my lecture is over, we should find that there was nothing beyond, that is, nothing outside, that the rest of the world was not around it, that its doors gave out not on the street, to the city, or to the universe, but on nothing. Such a discovery would shock us with surprise and terror. How is this shock to be explained? How, if, all of us being here, only this hall was present to us, and supposing I did not make this observation that I just made, and none of us was thinking of whether or not there was a world outside these doors, that is, whether in the absolute sense a without existed. There can be no doubt about the explanation. Adam, remember he's talking about Adam and Eve, Adam too would have suffered a shock of surprise, although a slighter one, if it had turned out that what Eve gave him was only half an apple, the half that he could see, but lacking the other present half. So if I was showing you whatever this multivitamin bottle, and you could see this half of it, and then when I gave it to you, you saw that this half didn't exist. It was just like the shell of a bottle, and you'd be like, whoa, I thought it was a full bottle that you could grasp. It says that Adam would have had that shock also. If he was handed the apple, but it was only the side he could see, it would lack the other present half. For while this hall around us says, well, while this hall is present to us sensu stricto, or in the strict sense, the rest of the world outside, just like if you're in your room right now, the rest of the world outside your room is present to us, is present to you. And well, he's also saying that to all of us, to all people. So this is an intersubjective or social feeling that the world doesn't go out of existence when I'm not looking at it, or when I'm not sensing it. That the world outside me does still exist. The world is still going on, and that there's no holes or fissures or gaps or nothing lack. There's no just gaps randomly in the world. Everything is full and fleshed out. He says the rest of the world outside it is present to us. As in the case of the apple, this presence of what is not patent, but an accumulated experience tells us that even though it is not in sight, even though you can't see the other half of my hand right now, although it is not in sight, it exists. It is there, and we can and must reckon with its possible presence. It is a knowledge that has become habitual for us. That what he's saying is that the part of the world that we don't see is a kind of habitual knowledge for us that we don't question, we don't even think about. We just always assume that we are seeing the whole object when we see it, unless something goes wrong. But, okay, so it is there. we can and must reckon with its possible presence. It is a knowledge that has become habitual for us, that we carry within us habitualized. Now, what acts in us through acquired habit we do not especially notice. We have no particular present consciousness of it, just because it is habit. In addition to the pair of notions, present and compresent, or present and compresent, we must also distinguish another pair. What exists for us now in a definite deliberate act, and what exists for us habitually, is constantly in exercise for us, but in this veiled, unapparent, and as it were, dormant form of habituality. So be so good as to fix the second pair in your memories, actuality and habituality. So he has present and compresent, and then he has actuality and habituality. Now, the present exists for us in actuality, and the compresent, the hidden parts of things, in habituality. And this leads us to a first law concerning the structure of our environment, circumstance, or world, namely, that the vital world is composed of a few things that are present at the moment and countless things that are latent, hidden at the moment, that are not in sight, but we know or believe we know, in this case it makes no difference which, that we could see them, that we could have them present to us. Okay, so there's a few things that are present at the moment and countless other things that are latent or hidden at the moment that are not in sight. We know or believe we could know that we could have sight of them, that we could have them, we could bring them into presence. Note then that I am now calling latent only that which at each instant I do not see, but of which I know that I have seen it before or could, in principle, see it later. So past and future. So that's as far as I'm going to go in reading for now. But I think that should address some of your concerns, address them, and from your comments on video too. And I hope that everyone else has learned a little bit about phenomenology. Is one simple, you know, Ortega lays out a distinction, which is the present and the compresent, which I guess sort of forms an axis. There's a kind of it's part of the constant structure of our perceptual world, of the world, and that's like one axis. And then he has what is actually seen in the present, what's actually present to us, and what is sort of habitually taken as for granted, you might say, which is sort of the possible. So there's like the actual and the possible, which is the second axis, and that these axes go together. You have what is compresent, and I mean, well, I guess you couldn't do that. I was gonna lay them over each other, but I mean, I guess it's just a one-way connection. I don't know if you're following me here, but what it is that it's the present, and there's the actuality, and there's the compresent, which is virtuality. And so this is just a structure that he brings out. And you know what? I'm going to read for another minute and 20 seconds what he says after that. He says, from the balconies, the balconies of Madrid, we see the expressive, graceful, notched profile of our Guadarrama range, is a mountain range in Spain, or in Madrid. It is present to us, so you see this mountain range. But we know from having heard it or read it in trustworthy books that there is also a Himalayan range, which merely with a little effort and a good supply of checks in our pockets, we can half see. Whereas, so long as we do not make the effort and, as usual, do not have the supply of checks at our command, the Himalayas are there latent for us, but forming a real part of our world in this peculiar form of potentiality. Okay, so another thing he wants to draw is the potentiality of the world. To this first structural law of our world, which consists, I repeat, in the observation that at any moment our world is composed of a few present things and a great many latent ones, we will now add a second law, which is no less evident. Okay, let's see. You have to check out the next video for that one.